Okay, great. Okay, without further ado, I think I'm going to kick off the presentation and people will probably start joining throughout the presentation, but I think we have enough people to start. So let me share my screen. All right, thank you everybody for registering and joining this webinar. I think it'll be very informative and insightful. We have some really great speakers. You'll see them in the panel right now. And yeah, thank you so much for joining. All right, so to start, why are we here? Who am I? What's the purpose of this event? So my name is Ruchi Meghtani. I am a senior at Menlo School. I am the founder of Justice Bound, a nonprofit that seeks to increase youth involvement in prison and juvenile justice reform. And I am also the vice chair of membership of the San Mateo County Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commission. I'm running this event because I believe that youth in juvenile hall are one of the most, if not one of the most disenfranchised populations in America, often deemed voiceless by our society. And I hope that with this event, we can bring these youth to the front and center and encourage attendees to advocate, join the projects that the speakers will be talking about, and generally spread the word about this cause. Specifically, some actions we have taken as an organization includes running numerous book drives and workshops. In various middle school and high schools, we have sent over 1,000 books to prisons across the United States. Additionally, last summer, with a few classmates, I started Project Phoenix, which we won funding to support youth in juvenile hall with employment. We have currently supported over 50 youth, and we've also collaborated with the nonprofit Jobs for Youth to provide workshops on applying for jobs and career counseling in the hall in the Youth Services Center in San Mateo County. Moving on to the agenda. So this is a rough agenda. It might change throughout the presentation, but this is generally the order we'll be going in. So after my introductions, we will have our first keynote speaker, Professor Geraldine Downey, with Jason, Wesley, and Dara as well from Columbia University. Next, we will have Stian Estenstad from Red Cross Norway, and finally a presentation by Judge Leonard Edwards from Santa Clara County. At the very end, we'll have a Q&A where people can submit their questions and all of the speakers will together answer them. And I'll also provide some details about my next in-person event. So be sure to stay till the end so you can hear about our next event and register. That will be in person and we'll have speakers from Columbia University. All right, and then some quick housekeeping about how, generally some regulations we'd like you to follow as attendees. So please feel free to use the Q&A function throughout the Zoom to ask questions. You can do this at any time. I'll just say that I'll probably select about 2 to 3 questions after each presentation for the speaker to answer, but the bulk of the questions will be answered during the designated Q&A time. But still, feel free to continue submitting questions as they come. Just keep filling the chat or Q&A function. That would be great. And then also use the chat if you're experiencing any technical difficulties, if you can't hear me or you can't see the screen. If many other people are also sharing that same difficulty, we will pause the presentation and address it. And then also we request that you refrain from using the raising hand function. And before I introduce the first speaker, I wanted to just say a quick thank you to Miss Otero. She is right next to me right now. She is the head librarian at Menlo School. She has profoundly helped me with my project since I think in 9th or 10th grade. Starting from my very first book drive at Menlo with just a few people, and it was just me running it. And now we have a full organization with all of these great speakers. So this definitely would not be possible without her. So I just want to say a quick thank you to her. All right, without further ado, I will introduce our first speaker, Professor Geraldine Downey from Columbia University. So Professor Downey is a professor of psychology at Columbia and also the director of the Center for Justice, which is committed to ending mass incarceration. I met Professor Downey at and also the other speakers she was with, Wesley, Dara, and Jason, at the Beyond the Bars conference in Columbia University, as well as the Center for Justice lab meeting, where she invited me to present my research from my various projects over the years. I was greatly inspired by the work she has done with Project Restore, which is a year-long gang intervention program that Columbia is supporting, and that I met the graduates of. Other work that she has done is she has studied youth placed on probation in Ireland. She co-directed a mother-child visitation program in a Michigan correctional facility, and her research interest includes studying social exclusion and rejection, particularly how identities of hope, like being a student, can transform the narratives and public perception of people who are incarcerated, people who are socially excluded. So with that, I'll give a warm welcome to our first speaker, Professor Downey. Thank you so much. I'll stop sharing my screen so Dara can share his.
So I'm really delighted to be here, if not in person, but and I'm so impressed, Rushi, by what you are doing. I mean, this is what we hope students in high school and beyond will do in terms of supporting the efforts that many of us are engaged in to transform the idea of how we get to public safety from one that's focused on incarceration and punishment to one that's focused on prevention and healing and education. So at the Center for Justice, we have two main goals. One is to support people who are directly impacted by the criminal justice system in becoming leaders in transforming the system, in the idea that policy or anything to do with anybody's lives is best informed by those who are most proximate to the problem. And so we wanted to focus today on one of the programs that the Center for Justice is involved in. And our team, as you've mentioned, is Jason Bostic, who's currently a student at Columbia, Wesley Jeffries, who is a student at the Kingsborough College and also works with us at the Center for Justice, and Dara McGee, who is a student at Trinity College Dublin, who's joining us from Dublin. So let me just tell you a little bit about what Project Restore aims to do and how it came about. So the idea of Project Restore came about through Gerald Daniels, who has been working with us for the past 7 years at the center and has just started graduate school at another university close by, New York University. But he began this project, the inception of Project Restore, when he came home from prison, and he had this question about why young people like himself who came on the radar for activities that undermined the safety of their communities, of law enforcement, of prosecutors and police, and were followed up until enough evidence had been gathered to indict them. He said, why not, when somebody comes on the radar of law enforcement, is there not a huge effort to support them with the resources that they need at that point in time to turn their lives around and end up in college rather than incarcerated? And so out of that came Project Restore Bed-Stuy, which was the DA Eric Gonzalez in Brooklyn, where Bed-Stuy is located, had a gang indictment. A lot of people were pulled out of communities, and the communities were in despair because of this. And he was open to the idea of a different way of dealing with young people who might be in a position to take over from the leaders who are now incarcerated. And we worked with him through to take a proposal that Jarrell had come up with, along with the prosecutor in his case, to provide a huge investment into the young people who were considered at the highest risk for gun and gang violence. The idea here was to support them in turning their lives around and becoming leaders in their community, but also providing a model for how young people who are potentially on the wrong track to turn their lives around, that law enforcement could get behind, that the city government could get behind. And so, because there's not that many examples of programs that have the kind of investment that is needed to turn young people's lives around. So the idea here is that instead of trying to amass the evidence that will send young people away to juvenile facilities or prisons, to instead provide them with the resources to do what most young people want to do, which is become successful in education and employment. So Dara, can I have the... so what we did was we had 30 young men from 2 rival street crews, and they were supported in a whole lot of different ways, in the ways that Jarrell and others thought young people needed to be supported for about a year. Importantly, and perhaps most importantly, they were provided with a stipend that was a reasonable living wage, with case management, with mentorship by people who had once stood in their shoes, with a program that that helped them deal with their trauma, where men who had been incarcerated for a long time came from California each week to meet in a circle, help young people deal with their trauma. Life Skills, which was effectively a seminar, a university level seminar, to help people develop the skills that they needed to be successful in college and in employment. And then internship and employment. And I'm going to turn you over now to Jason, who will tell you about what changed for young people as a result of being in Project Restore. And so Jason, are you ready?
Yes, I'm
okay.
ready. So what changed with us?
Jason, maybe just say a little bit about yourself before I haven't.
So my name is Jason Bostic. I'm a Columbia undergrad with the School of General Studies. I was a participant of Project Restore Bed-Stuy, but I was with Group A. Group A being Roosevelt Housing Development. I was a part of a gang, or associated with a gang that was a part of the program. So the way that caused me to help me change was understanding Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You go to the next slide. You go to the next slide. So understand Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The hierarchy of needs of Maslow's is a need of a psychological theory that organizes human needs in a 5-tier model, often illustrated as a pyramid that the basis levels of the needs are like food, shelter, and higher levels of the physiological and self-sufficient needs. During Project Restore Bed-Stuy, our needs were met. So coming from an unprivileged community, a lot of times our needs aren't met. And as you see in New York City, here are the averages of poverty, unemployment, incarceration, non-fatal assaults, and emergency hospitalizations. And as you see in Bed-Stuy, where we're from, it's higher than all the average levels in New York City and the Brooklyn average. We go to the next slide. So we're helping in understanding that and realizing that everything is not promised. There's something called the strain theory by Robert K. Merton. And what he says that people that doesn't have the needs to accomplish things, eventually results in criminology in order to make a way to achieve these needs. As in America, they promise us the American dream, but that's not the reality for everyone. When everyone step outside, everyone don't see the same thing. When I stepped outside, I see a bunch of negative peer pressure, stagnant conversations, suppressed feelings, and I constantly had a wall up. But the reason why people from my community join gang, because it fulfills a basic need. It fulfills income. It fulfills belonging and acceptance. And it's a place where we could gain status, where a lot of people from our community face neglect in the household. With the overcoming umbrella of poverty hanging over our head, causing us to do certain things, people step outside to find a substitute family. And that's what gangs provide. But it's also an unsafe space, and it's very short term. There's no one that you know, and of course we don't know them, that commits crimes and made a career out of it. There's no pension, there's no 401k, and it has a lot of different things that come along with it. When you join a gang, you don't know what you're cashing in. So you may think you may join a substitute family, but you're substituting your main immediate family, because now you may put them in danger. You can't go on dates no more if you have a partner, because you may put them in danger, or you may put yourself in danger. So it creates a lot of insecurities within yourself, and it's a lot of conditional love. When people get incarcerated after committing so much of their time to this game, a lot of people don't reach out no more. A lot of people stop answering the phone call. But Project Restore Bed-Stuy fulfilled all them needs in a positive way. I was able to show up as my authentic self, show up as Jason and not J-Rock, that what people will call me on the street. It was a judgment-free zone. And it was the first time I looked at myself in the mirror and actually dealt with the trauma that was going on in my life. My father was murdered when I was 9 years old. And before the program started, my sister was also murdered. So it was a lot of things I was dealing with besides just being a part of my neighborhood. But Project Restore gave me the space to be vulnerable. It gave me the space to talk and navigate and be able to pinpoint why things was happening to me. I had growth conversations. I was able to open up and remove this mask that I wore every time I stepped outside. It was a safe space for me. It gave me stability, and it gave me exposure to higher learning. The first thing I learned was called the Bronfer-Brenner model, and where we was able to learn that environmental factors play a pivotal reason on human development. So me noticing that there's liquor stores that surround my neighborhood, but there's no way to cope with these feelings, is the reason why people use alcohol and other substance abuse to deal with their problems. Me learning that, it gave me a way to think long term. And with Ms. Geraldine's help and many other case managers, including Gabe, who's here, I was able to become an intern at Columbia, get hired full time, and then start my education. And Project Restore also gave us financial stability. Every 2 weeks we was paid. So it started, they told us $25 an hour. So I was like, yeah, I'm definitely joining. But then as I kept going, I stopped coming for the incentive of getting paid, but the knowledge and the opportunities that was being put before me. Next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wesley.
Yeah. Well, 6 months. Well, my name is Wesley Jeffries. I'm Group B, Sumner Houses, and within the I'm a Kingsborough graduate. I'm a Kingsborough undergrad, and I work for the Center for Justice. Within 6 months of the program, Project Restore, they called for a sit down with Group A and Group B, who had like a decade-long rivalry beef. And both groups were so much doing different things and exploring different avenues that when they asked to meet, I think that we ain't really consider it as a bad idea. So when we sat down, we was able to do things that we couldn't do for a decade, which was have a conversation with each other and realize that we were more alike than we was different, and we were facing the same obstacles. And once we realized that we really didn't even know why we really even had any issues to begin with. It was just all stigma and stuff that we was trained to think. So after that, me and Jason facilitated at a few schools, and Ms. G got us into Columbia together, Group A and B, on an internship. We was able to pick up where we left off on Project Restore, which ended abruptly. And through there, everybody that participated, all 15, was pursued higher education and are now on the greater things.
Tell them the story about how you put on the suit and tie when you walked in.
Oh, fun story. So when we was going to meet them, I didn't know what I was gonna say to them. Like I didn't know what they was gonna say to me. So it was like a nervous thing. So I'm like, what would I do to make them take me serious? And from hanging with Jarrell a lot, he said, if you want people to take you serious, you gotta dress like you want to be taken serious. So for like the second time in my life, I put on a suit, got glasses, and walked in there. And I thought two things: either they was gonna laugh at me or they was gonna take me serious. It was a little bit of both, but I kind of got the attention I wanted though.
So Jason and Wesley are, what they did at Columbia was they came in as we were having our troubles, which everybody knows about last semester. They came and talked about how, as two people who had started off as rivals, they were now working together to make things better for everybody in their community. So thanks, Wesley. And Dara, I'm going to turn it over to you to give some like statistics on the effect of the program.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dara, and I work as a research associate at the Centre for Justice. So over the past few months, I've been working on the evaluation report for Project Restore Bedstoy. Before I jump into the statistics, I'll give you a bit of a background about how I got involved in this type of work. So during my undergraduate, I studied business with a specialization in social innovation. And in my final year project, I had to do a project on a person that I thought exemplified what it means to be a social innovator. So I did my project on Jarrell Daniels, who's been mentioned a few times on this call. So Jarrell is the founder of Justice Ambassadors Youth Council, and my project focused on his story of moving from incarceration to driving policy change at the Centre for Justice. So after doing this project, I had the opportunity to spend the summer working with Jarrell at the Centre for Justice, and I found the work really rewarding and impactful. So 2 years later, I'm back working at the centre, and I've been inspired to do a master's in applied social data science to enhance my quantitative skill set and further contribute to this work. So some of you may be thinking, given my background in business, it's a bit surprising that I ended up working here. But one of the great things about the centre and other nonprofits is the need for diverse skill sets and different points of view to solve society's challenges. So the centre includes psychologists like Jer, sociologists, economists, social workers, public health specialists, and then those who are directly impacted by incarceration and violence. So no matter what subject area you're interested in or what walk of life you're from, you can play a role in driving positive change. So PRB exemplifies one such project. So participants, so you've heard from Jason and you've heard from Wesley and the progress that they've made themselves, but all participants who took part in the program have made significant personal and professional progress. So throughout the program, no participants were involved in gun violence, violent crime, or incarcerated. 93% of participants got work experience across 2 internship rotations, and for many, this was their first experience of sustained legal employment. So eight of the PRB graduates, including both Jason and Wesley, are now members of the Public Safety Working Group, and they're committed to ending gun violence within their neighbourhoods and improving community safety. And these 8 are also now all enrolled in college level courses, which will play a critical role in socio-economic mobility and improving their futures and the futures of their communities. So PRB not only had a really positive impact on individual participants, but it also had a strong community impact in the precincts that the program took place in. So as the evaluation team, we conducted a difference in difference analysis to determine if PRB was associated with a reduction in shooting incidents and felony assaults. So our analysis showed that PRB was associated with a measurable reduction in both shooting victims and felony assaults when compared to other precincts within New York City before and after the intervention was implemented. So although the size and duration of the pilot program means we must kind of interpret these results with caution, the program shows significant promise as a model. PRB shows significant promise as a model for non-carceral approaches to ending gang-related violence. So there's additional funding needed and sustained programming needed to translate the short-term impacts from the program into more longer-term successes. And finally, we're looking into a replication of the PRB program within another under-resourced neighborhood within Brooklyn with support from the Kings County District Attorney's Office. So that's all from me. So thank you very much for listening and inviting us here to speak today. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and you can reach out to Jason on the email provided. If you want any more information on the work that the Centre does, we can also add you to a mailing list to let you know about any upcoming online events that you could attend and learn more about the work. And if you're ever in New York, feel free to reach out and you can get a tour of the Centre. So thank you all.
So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Downey, Dara, Wesley, and Jason. That was an amazing presentation. We have 3 questions in the Q&A that since we have time, I'll ask all 3 of them that maybe one of you or multiple of you can answer. So our first question is, as a part of Project Restore, have you considered the relevance of introducing mindfulness/meditation to help youth as one way to help address the top pyramid of that Maslow hierarchy?
So we stayed in contact with Inside Circle, which is like a healing restorative circle. So not only in a circle are we talking about trauma, but we're working with different exercises to allow people to go through the process of change within themselves. So one of the first things that they did with me was, it was called a mirror exercise actually. And they had me sit down and meditate at first, but then they had me sit down and tell my story to another member of the circle, sitting in the middle of the circle. And when I told my story and then they told it back to me, that was the first time I heard my story coming out of someone else's mouth. It was the first time I heard my story from another person's perspective. And I realized, wow, I am like desensitizing my story. Like this is crazy and this is not normal. And once I was able to learn that this wasn't normal, I was able to make the steps in order to change my life.
Thank you so much for sharing that. The second question was from an anonymous attendee. How can I work with Project Restore if I'm not in New York?
So Dara's not in New York. So.
Yeah, so I was working on like some of the data analysis and then the report as well. So you don't necessarily need to be in New York to do some work related to it. But we just have video calls and iterations of analysis and reports. So you can definitely be involved, not in the actual implementation of the project, but in terms of the kind of evaluation, you can be involved remotely.
And I would say also with, if somebody is interested in having more presentations like this, that's another way to organize presentations that we could give.
Yeah, and after this, I can send to all the attendees the contact information of all of our speakers. You can reach out with more questions and how you can be involved, since these are definitely really great opportunities. The next question is, can you talk a little bit about how this was a pilot collaborative program between several different organizations, institutions, and government entities. And a follow-up question to that was, is there any expectation that this work will continue throughout the city?
So I'll leave that to Wesley and Jason to talk about the collaboration and also the work that they're doing to get it on the agenda throughout the city.
So yes, this was a collaborative program between the Center for Justice here at Columbia University, the KCDA's office, which it was ran out of, Bridge Street Corporation, which is in Bed-Stuy, a local community-based organization, in which they was the people that paid all the participants, and Mark J, which is the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, who gave the $2.5 million for the program to be ran. But if you think about the $2.5 million to run this project, and holding one person in Rikers Island costs $400,000 per year. So if you break down the 2.5 million, it's about $70,000 per person. And it brought down the shooting in Bed-Stuy 47%. So you rather spend $400,000 keeping up one person on Rikers Island with your tax-paying dollars, or $70,000 that's gonna have a central goal. Before Project Restore Bed-Stuy happened, I didn't have no ID, I didn't have no plan. I dropped out of community college because of the murder of my sister, and now I'm at an Ivy League organization and global institution. So just giving people a chance and letting them know that it's something more to life than the thing that they see every day was very pivotal for the program. And following up on the expectation of this work continuing through the city, $1.1 million actually just KCDA just received to do Project Restore Brownsville. So it's still PRB, but Brownsville is also a red zone with a lot of violence and gang activity. So they're working on keeping it going. They're looking for more funding, but Project Restore Bed-Stuy is getting a lot of different, is getting a lot of traction. Yeah.
Wesley?
And me and Jason actually presented to a couple of groups from Brownsville. So we're trying our best to keep the model going as much as we can.
And then Wesley and Jason, last week, we met with the city council, the chair of the Committee on Criminal Justice, and she talked about how she is eager to work with us to make sure it becomes part of the budget. But the problem is, it's a very, very promising project. There's a lot of buy-in, but when people hear millions for a project that's community-based, they somehow think that it's very, very hard to come up with the money. But the program would not have worked as well as it did if there wasn't a sort of a buy-in from all of the city institutions and the university, city government, including law enforcement. But most especially, I would say that the participants like Jason and Wesley, who were really willing to give this project a chance. And so we're trying to create an ecosystem of support for young people in very, very disadvantaged communities. And what this has done, it has showed let's say the powers that be, that a program like this can work. And this would not be possible if it wasn't for the willingness of people like Jason and Wesley to come together and get over their differences. So I would sort of center the success of it on the participants. And this is something that they're showing every day in when they show up to do the work that they do.
Yeah, that's extremely important. We have two more questions. I'm just going to keep asking them since we are ahead of the agenda. Our next question is this primarily for children in Bed-Stuy or mainly for adults?
It's for like kids from 16 to 25, I think, I want to believe.
Yeah, it was for youth. That was from the range of like 16, 18 years old to 25. And when they was thinking of Project Restore Bed-Stuy, it was based on like people that's likely to do a shooting or be shot. So they was aiming for a specific group of people, and if they could change like this pillar, the pillars of the community, then they could extend to more people. West, even though it wasn't for younger people, and it wasn't for females neither, it was mainly targeting on males. People like Wesley created something called Next Gen, and where he himself was teaching and facilitating to the youth and his community, teaching his little sister and many other people. And I started something called Community Conversations. What I was doing, what I was learning from life skills and learning from Columbia University when I audited Professor Geraldine Downey's class, I came back to teach it to my community for younger people and older people too.
But what I would say is that the most neglected or rejected, and given that's what I study, members of the community are young people between ages of, say, 15 and 25 who are seen as troublemakers. And the opportunities for them to engage in anything in their community are really restricted. And I think that what all of the participants have shown is that is a stigma that should be broken down, that given the opportunity, that people rise to the occasion, and that excluding people from community centers, from whatever, because they have a bad reputation, not personally, but as a group, means that this is a group that we should be focused on including.
Thank you. I think Project Restore definitely proves that point. And our last question before we move on to the next speaker is, which part of the Maslow hierarchy is the most addressed in Project Restore?
Go for it, Jason.
I want to say the most important part for me would have been the restorative circles. Like, that's the most part I bring up, like inside circle. That would be like where we got a chance to really see our friends in a different light. You hang with people in the community and you never really get to speak or talk to them about serious things. And I felt like in that space, we was able to be ourselves.
I also say like the self-esteem part, inside circle. It was the first time that I was able to deal with a lot of trauma and change the narrative on myself. It was the first time that I was able to. It was the first time I got employed. I never had a job before Project Restore Best Star, so that was like life changing. And it also changed my mindset. I went from a mindset that was really fixed, and I developed a growth mindset. Like I went from it is what it is and flowing with life, doing everything with the scarcity mindset, to having a more like on gender schedule mindset that in order for me to become who I want, I got to put the work in.
So I think it's really, when people are concerned about scarcity, when they're concerned about safety, they can't really think about the higher levels of the self-actualization levels in Maslow, that Maslow draws attention to. But with Inside Circle, that was, and with everything else that allowed for people feeling safe and secure, they were able to focus on their own self-development, and in a way that you can't do when you're afraid and traumatized and poor.
Thank you so much. All right, yeah, thank you so much, Project Restore, Columbia University. That was an amazing presentation. Next, I will introduce our next speaker, Stian Estenstad. I met Stian when I was in Norway. I won a grant from the Hand Foundation to visit Norway for 3 weeks to study their criminal justice system. I visited his re-entry center where I saw the bicycle workshops to provide job training and many other resources they're providing for formerly and currently incarcerated people. I was extremely impressed. Some other things that Stian has done is in 2004, he led a pilot project with the Oslo Red Cross, the network after imprisonment, to support transition after sentences, which includes one-on-one mentoring, work training, assistance with debt management, and a special program for young ex-offenders, which is one of the focuses of this event today. He also, very interestingly, imitated a Viking sailing trip with incarcerated people that he will be talking about if we have time, and he also has a video. He told me about this in Norway, and I was very surprised and intrigued. Essentially, he takes, and you'll be talking about this, but he takes incarcerated people on this 5-day sailing trip in replica Viking trips, where they work together throughout the trip, operating the sails, catching and making their dinner together. And it's a very collaborative and like trust building experience. And he is actually currently trying to do this in America on the Mississippi River right now and film a Netflix documentary on it. So thank you so much. I'll welcome Stina Estestad.
Hello, everybody. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, my name is Stian, and among things I have been from the army, I have some experience. I also been working as a leader for a substance use treatment program, and also have education from the Norwegian Correctional Service Education Center. I was also a prison guard, but my last job for the correctional service was actually a redefender program together with the correction and probation service. And then about 20 years since I started working for the Red Cross, they was asking me to start up a following up program for prisoners at the last part of the sentence and afterwards, because they see that there is so needs to help people in actually making new networking after release from prison. So that I have been done since yeah, about 20 years since now. But all, as Richie say, I have also been establishing a new kind of cooperation program in Norway, which I call a re-entry center, and I will come back to it and how this center operates. But first, my experience is that these people, if I can call them that, or participants or prisoners, go from locked in to locked out of society. So actually, I think it was more easy for me to go out of the system, out of the correction and probation, and start working for NGOE and start doing it from the outside in. And I think it was more easy for me because I have this experience from the correctional service and all the contacts and relations. Actually, it was more easy for me to start building this activity. And Norwegian Red Cross is quite big and quite different, I think, from the American Red Cross, because in Norway we have a lot of programs when it comes to people in the society who have needs. And this is maybe the group of people with the biggest needs of them all, the prisoners, and especially when they are released from prison. So my task on behalf of the Red Cross was try to find a way to bridge the gap from the prison and to the society. And if you can imagine that there is a lot of pillars or islands from this island to this land on the other side, as this picture shows you, I think Red Cross is one of them. And the municipality and the correctional service and other NGOs. So it is so important that we work together because there is a lot of needs who has to be taken care of. And it's so important that there is some holistic following up. So this is not easy because we are working with a group of people with a lot of needs, as I told you, but there is a lot of I always, maybe because I'm from the correctional service, I always think safety, both for the participants, but also for my volunteers and my staff, and also from those we are cooperating with, if there is companies, businesses, other NGOs. So we also have a big program when it comes to, I have a big staff, not just volunteers, people who actually are professionals like me, with different kind of education and experience and responsibilities in my program. And we are, every participant who is taken part in this program has to be interviewed by us. We also need information from the correctional service. So the participant have to give us access to the information, what kind of crime he had or her had committed. And we have an interview, of course, and the same we do with the volunteers. All the volunteers has to be at least 25 years old. They have to take an interview, go through an interview, and we also have a long training for the volunteers. Both the correction help us with the education of the volunteer people, because my volunteers, they also have access to the prisons. So they're visiting the participant at the last part of the sentence. And that's very important, because we have to start building a relation with these people. So if the volunteer people are going to help them after release, there has to be a kind of relation and trust, and there has also to do some planning before they're released from prison. So that is very important. And it's also important to understand that the volunteer people is not a therapist or assistant. They are human beings, a friend, a kind of a friend. But there is some frames around this friendship, because how far it can go. Of course, there is no access to alcohol or drugs, of course. And we also don't want these meetings to happen in their homes. We use the public arena because there's more safe for the participants and the volunteers. So there is a lot of things we have to train the participant. The participant need a kind of a training, both from the Red Cross or my staff, and also from the correctional service, because they also access to the correctional service, go into the prison, and they have a silent agreement. Just have to sign a silent agreement, both with the Red Cross and the correctional service. There's a lot of things they see and hear which they can share, of course, with their friends and families and others. So that's also important. So we use a lot of things, time to following up or volunteer people, train them, and also when they are in duty or doing their volunteer job, following them up. And we also treat people differently. Different people need different following up, and that's also very hard, of course, to understand, but it is very important that we do. So we have a handbook. We have made a handbook for this work, and that is very important, because we have started this program all over Norway. We have also established Network After Imprisonment, a kind of similar activity in Denmark, in Iceland, and the last program now we are starting in Latvia, so we are expanding. So this is a work which has started in Oslo and now developed all over Norway and also beyond, of course. And I talk about it, safetyness. It's very important. I'm not sure how much you do know about the Norwegian Correctional Service. I have a long presentation when it comes to the Norwegian Correctional Service. I was just a few months ago, I was in Nashville, and I had to speak for 2 hours about dynamic security, because that the short version of what Norwegian mean with the dynamic security is the relations between the staff in the prison and the incarcerated people. And that's very important, because we do things very differently in the United States and in Norway. So there's a lot of attention these days from America and from different states. I think just the last year I had at least 60 visits from different parts of the world, and most of them actually from the United States. So there's a lot of attention from the Norwegian Correctional Service, mostly because it's quite human and pragmatic in the way we're doing it, if we compare it to most prisons in the United States. So that's very interesting. I have a lot of friends in the United States, and we have a lot of meetings, and yeah, it's very interesting. But dynamic security is very important. And also when it comes to the 2 other kind of security, statistic security and organizational security, it's very important. And this is the way the Norwegian Correctional Service think and act when it comes to safetyness. But I do the same thing in the Red Cross. I don't think the participants experience it like we are doing the same thing as the correctional, because we are not, of course. But it's so important for me that we are organized and have routines and frames around this project, which make this the safety for everybody. And that's also from the participants, because the participants has also enemies in the society. There is a lot of different disagreements and gangs. So it's also important for me to have, so they can trust me if they are in a rush situation. So we actually can make some necessary moves to make their situation safe. Yeah. So network after imprisonment, which I started for about 20 years ago, we have developed, the first thing we were starting with was actually helping people to train social skills, meet normal people, and get out of their apartment, turn the back on the crime friends. So there's a lot of programs in this work who comes to social training. So we have also a big, I can come back to it. We also have a big program when it comes to debt and financial counseling. That's very important, because I think about 80% of the prisoners in Norway have big problem when it comes to debt problems. So that's is something Red Cross take very seriously, because there is it's hard for them to get a job if every payment is going to the creditors. So it's very important for us that we help them with the debt problems. And we also have a lot of work training and job placement following up. We also have a youth program, the same age as you, 15 to 25 years old. And those guys and girls, of course, they have a lot of closer following up and a different following up. So I come back to this in my presentation. And the last thing we are doing, and the last program is actually we have a family center and then we have a family program. It's so important for us that the kids and the families is taken care of, because there is a lot of our participants are in a situation as they are mother and fathers. So it's so important for us that we can help them in this situation and make this experience, especially when you're coming out of prison and you're going to catch up a long period of time away from your kids, away from your family. So it's so important for us to help them in this project. So when it comes to networking and preventing loneliness, and also help them with building social skills, it's so important for us that this program start, as I told you, at the last part of the sentence, inside the prison. The volunteers are by us. We are taking the volunteers together with us when we are in prison and present them to each other. And both participants and the volunteers, we are going to a contract and tell them what's okay to do, what's not okay to do, and such kind of things. And after that, we pull out, and the volunteers actually take over and following up, visiting them in the prison, and continue following up after release. And so that's one-to-one following up. But we also have a lot of this as I told you, we have this re-entry center. We have a lot of things there happening. So there is a lot of social gatherings. We have a lot of group activities, reflection groups, free meal concerts, such things. And we also have climbing, golf, yoga, running groups, biking, a lot of things happening. And all those things is taken care and organized by the volunteers. And we also have a music, a band and a choir, different things, not just physical training, and also yoga and such things. So it's a lot of things happen, and a lot of those things is actually being run. And if there are some volunteers who actually have some skills or want to do something, it's very easy for us to help them doing this following up to Red Cross activities. So this is very important because a lot of the participant is very scared of meeting the old friends, how to handle that. And also when it comes to new people like me and you, it's hard for them to actually catch up a long period of time away from society and just it's not so easy actually. So there is a lot of loneliness and yeah, trouble when it comes to get in touch in building new networking. It's not so easy. We can't give these people a new network, of course. They have to build their own network, but we are helping them to come in contact with people and train the social skills to do it. And when it comes to the debt, it's very, very important that we help them with this. I think at this time in Oslo, we have at least 60 volunteers who are actually just trained to helping the participants with all the opening of the envelopes, getting overview of the debt problem. Because the first things what's happened when you're getting put in jail or prison is that you are invisible for the creditors, also from government. Nobody knows where you are. And the first thing what's happened when you're released from prison is that all the creditors finds you. So your mailbox is got filled up with envelopes. And this scared the hell out of those people. They are so afraid of this. And I think the debt problem is the only thing I can see is when it comes to mental health issues, I think this is maybe the hardest thing for them to handle, the debt problems. They don't know how to handle it, and it's almost impossible. I think it's a new kind of punishment starting when they are released from prison, because some of them it's almost impossible for them to actually get a normal life if they don't get in control of the situation. And it's not so easy. And the worst creditor is not it's actually the government. So this is very important for us that we help them with. And this is a long journey, and it's a lot of work. And it's so important for us that the participants take part in this journey and doing this together with the volunteers, because it's so important that they feel the ownership of the problem, that they learn something about this in this process. So it's not going to happen in the future. And also when it comes to the family, that's why we take this so seriously. The family is also it's very vulnerable when it comes to the financial situation after release from prison. We also have a lot of work training, and we have a lot of cooperation with different companies. So after people have been in our work training programs, we also help them to continue getting work in normal businesses. So we have at this re-entry center, we have our own brand, which is called Rail Bike. It's actually to train them to be bike mechanics. So we are one of the few places in Norway where we actually train people to be professional bicycle mechanics. And we have a lot of customers because this is a normal bicycle shop, bike repair shop. And we also have a sale of used bicycle. A lot of people deliver used bicycles, which they maybe would throw in the garbage. But we fix them and sell them very cheap to students and people who have not so good economic situation. So it's important for us that we don't not just take care in the people, but also the environment when it comes to garbage and people, things we can reuse. We also have our own brand we also have a roastery when it comes to coffee. We roast our own coffee. I think in English, it's almost like Bandit's coffee or something we call it. So there is participants who roast and they are very good, and we buy coffee from all over the world, and it's very high quality coffee. And we have the same name or coffee. So there's also a canteen in our building and a coffee shop. So there's normal customers, and also it's a canteen for everybody working inside the center. So we also have a caretaker service. So we can also train people to go from fixing houses easy. So there is a lot of work training in this center, so actually it's necessary for some of them to have before we can send them to a normal company, or because it's so important for them that they have some skill and also get time to fix other things, because there is not just job training. A lot of them have also take some subjects, because we also have in our center secondary and high school, so they also can continue, and if they haven't finished their education, so they can finish the education and continue to universities and such things. So that's also a lot of people maybe have some hours at the school and some hours in the work training program, and also having some help with debt problems or doing other activities. So there's a lot of things in this building. So a lot of the participants use all different parts or offering, of course. And this is maybe the most interesting part for you, because you have concentrate your work on the youth. And that's very important for us as well, because we have some similar problem in Norway. It's a lot of, maybe recently, gang problems, and there is a lot of, I think this is maybe the group we use most time on, and it's hardest to reach. And they need, as we see, extra support and special following up, not just from us, but from several offices in the community. So we also have a cooperation when we are two things very important in this youth program. If they haven't continued and finished secondary and high school, we try to help them with that, so they can have the opportunity to go to university or having a job. We also have young at work, because a lot of them just want to have our job and make money. So it's very close cooperation with different companies and so on. So after they have been on work training, so we see that they are coming from their home and from their bed and to work and so on. So some of them, sometimes you have to actually go to their apartment and pick them up and wake them and drive them to work. And yeah, it's I don't think they are so special. I can see everybody who has young people, and they are lucky because they have parents who take them out of bed and put them on or drive them at school. This is not the situation for every kid in this city, so it's very important for us that we have more patience when it comes to the youngsters, of course. So this is also a close cooperation with the youth unit inside the prisons. In Norway, we try not to put youngsters in prison. You could be put in jail at the age of 15 years in Norway, but that's very seldom. Most of them are 18 and up. Not very few prisoners in Norway are under 18 years old, actually, and that's very good, because prisons, even in Norway, is not a good place to be, and especially for youngsters. So I don't think Norway is utopia when it comes to following up the youngsters. We also have struggle when it comes to find the right ways and methods to help the youngest people. But this youth program we have is very popular. And we also have, as I told you, a cooperation with the youth units inside the different prisons. And we have a Youth Week program. It's a kind of a workshop inside the prisons where we have different activities each day, and it's quite popular. And a lot of the youth who have go through this program is now member in our work and are being following up after release. So it's important for us to pick out those which we think it's possible to help, because this is quite it's important to see that this is a group of people with a lot of serious crime when it comes to violence, knives, guns, and also when it comes to sexual crime, and almost every kind of crime. There is a lot of, if a youth is put in jail in Norway, it's very serious and it's very rare. It's not many of them, but those who are there, it's very important for us that we operate closely together, both with the school, the municipality, and the correctional service, and everybody, and make it so tight as possible, and make it as normal as possible as well. Because I don't think just medicine and therapists are the answer when it comes to not just the youth, but everybody. That's why I will show you something about the Viking trip, why we're doing the Viking trips, because I think it's so important to take people out of a difficult situation. They give them some experience, and who actually make them want to do something else, want to get the life back on track, and give them some experience they never would believe, and they could have. So we have seen, especially on the youngsters who have taken part in these Viking journeys, have been very, very nice experience for them, and a lot of them had. I think this was a turning point for several of the youngsters and others as well. So this is also more closely following up from the mentors when it comes to the youngsters or the volunteers. So maybe some of them had 2 mentors as well, because and also the employed people in this project is also much closer to this group of people. So we can't have so many of them, and some of them is too dangerous actually. So that's also important for me to see. Okay, where have the professionals to take over? What can we do with the volunteer staff and the Red Cross? Yeah. So some of them is too dangerous, both for themselves and from others. And there is also some conflicts between different youth members. So it's also important for us that we are aware of those things and talk about those things and try to fix some of those problems, of course. One other thing which is very important for us to think about is the safetiness around this peer. I don't think necessarily the youngsters in himself is dangerous all the time, but the situation around him or her could be, because there is a lot of maybe gang-related conflicts who actually could happen when they are in the city or something. So it's important for us that we try to have an overview and what's happening in the crime environment. So if there is some things sometimes we take the volunteers out of the situation and the employed staff take over. And luckily we are in a situation that most of the participants trust us. They dare talk to us, and that's, I think it's very important, especially when it comes to take care of the safeness for everybody. The family program is very important. I think those kids are so yeah, it's a lot of people in Norway, and especially kids who have a lot of struggling when they are having mother and fathers who have problems with crime and drugs and such things. So it's so important for us that we help the participants when they come back from a long period away from the family, as I told you. So we have a family center. There is some cabins they can use for free in the weekends. And we also have some in the holidays when it comes to Christmas, Easter, summer holiday, Easter holiday, such things. We also have some journey. Just 14 days back, we had a big sailing ship, not the Viking ship, something bigger, where they are going with the family program. And that's very nice, because few of them can actually come back to school and tell their friends that they have been on holidays. No, they can, and that's so important. And also this is an arena to repair the relations between the parents and the children. And this is also nice for us because a lot of volunteers, when they are getting in situation when as mother and fathers, it's not so easy for them to continue. So we lose a lot of them. This is no problem. We can put them in the family program because then they could take the kids together with themselves, together with the participants' kids. And that's normality. And that's also very important. It's very normal that I take my kids together with me and the participants do the same, and we have a nice time on occasion. So that's the family program is something we are having a lot of focus on at this moment, actually. And this is the Viking ships. As I told you, I have some pictures from them I can show you. And as Richie told you, this is quite an experience, and a lot of them are quite scared before this is. As you can see, there is open boats with just a roof in the back of the boat, so you can have some their luggage and such things. And we are doing this along the Norwegian coast, and the Norwegian coast is long and it's rush, even in the summer could be when it comes to the weather. But at the same day, we could use it could be 20 degrees and sun hot, and it could be almost below zero and snow. So the Norwegian nature is quite harsh, hard could be. So it's quite a journey for them, and this. And we also prepare them, of course, before such a journey. We have a lot of warm dresses who is for rain, and it's also could fleet if they fell in the water. And we also have tents for everybody, so they don't need a lot of equipment. And if there is something they need, we help them to get access to those, so everybody has the opportunity. We also have participants who also are at the last part of the sentence in jail. So Oslo prison and other prisons have some programs inside the prisons. And some of these incarcerated people have also the opportunity to take part in this in journeys. So this on this journey, there is volunteers, there is a released person who are maybe finished with their sentence. There are people on community service. There are people in prisons who are at the last part of the journey sentence. And each year we're doing this with 2 groups, 5 days each group. And I think each year about 50 persons are taking part in this journey. We have been doing this journey in this last 18 years. And it's wonderful. I love this project. It's so nice. And the relations and everybody, every role is getting disappear when you go on these ships. Everybody's just crew on board on a journey. And sometimes the participants are the best sailors also. So this is very nice. The last summer, this summer, actually, I have also 5 visitors from the United States who was guest on this journey, who's observed this trip. Because as Richie told, I have some plans maybe to take boat ships to the United States at some point and make some traveling. I foresee. Maybe sometime I can tell you more about this project. I just have to find some financing, do it. But I can, this is a person, this is a group of people with a lot of different needs, and I don't, not everybody has had this problem, but this is a kind of characteristic of a released person in Norway. Most of them are male. I think in Norway we had just 6 or 7% of the prison population is females. They have their problems, drug addict. They have a criminal lifestyle, loneliness, problem with not criminal network. And you see every on this list, there is a lot of things who has to be taken care of. And that's the problem. Because even if from the Red Cross point of view, even if we do everything perfect when it comes to debt and financial things, And also when it comes to social networking, work training, and all the other things we're doing. Even if we do everything perfect, we may not succeed because there is a lot of other needs who has to be taken care of us as well by others. Because the Red Cross is so important for the Red Cross. We are not, the Red Cross will not take over responsibility for tasks which the government have or the municipality have responsibility for. So as an NGO, we are taking care of problems who actually fall out of the communities, the social welfare system in Norway. So it's so important for us that other NGOs, the government, the correctional service, the municipality, everybody has to do their job if this is going to be a success. That's so important. And that's why I also opened this center, because I saw this problem. Even if we do everything right, it's maybe not worth it, because there's a lot of other things who has to be taken care of by others. And it's not so easy, because a lot of those problems has to be taken care of by different ministries and departments, and also when it comes to the municipality, different units in the municipality. So that's why it's so easy that everybody works in silos, and that's why I saw the necessity of having a center where we could have one door and as lot of help in this center as possible to make this release and assist the participant in a much better way. Because as it was, even in Norway, the participants go from office to office and nobody talks together with each other. And it's so hard for them to actually get help because there's so many things who has to be taken care of. And also when it comes to develop a best kind of practice, how to cooperate, meet as many needs as possible, as fast as possible, because time is happen very fast when you're released from prison. Thing goes wrong very fast if you don't have those things taken care of. So this is also a much more effective way to work. We save a lot of time and money. I think my staff saved maybe 30% more effective now than they were before we opened the center. And also we can see this reduce crime, because the result is better. I don't have any empiric research who can give this, but I hope in the future we can have some research on this, how much more effective and successful this way of working is. So in the center today, we have network after imprisonment and all our offerings when it comes to work training and debt counseling and networking and everything. We also have another activity, which is also under my responsibility, what we call the visitoring service, who actually just visit people in prison. We also have something other program now, actually something we have taken home from Ireland, I think. It's we are making prisoners volunteer. They are helping other prisoners when it comes to first aid training, and they are doing a lot of activities inside the prison. So we are making prisoners Red Cross volunteers inside the prison, and that's a very interesting program. But inside the center, we also have the prison and probation service, the correctional service. We have something called, and it's a kind of drug court. I think that's familiar for you. Helping people, instead of putting people with a lot of drug problems inside the prison, they are getting help from the drug court in this building. And we also have our own Norwegian Labor and Welfare Administration inside this building. And that's very important because they are so important for everything. And we also have the municipal school, because in Norway, all the offerings inside the prison is imported services. So the school inside the prison is actually a school from the municipality. I have to see the time. Oh. You have to tell me when it's when my time is going up, because I I talk so.
Yeah, we're a little bit over time. But yeah, so if you can wrap up in a few
Yeah, I
minutes.
can
Some
fast.
questions.
I'm almost finished. So that's also important that you can continue your educations, which you start in prison, or maybe you're a youth conviction outside the prison. So it's so important for us that we have our own school inside this center. So I think today we have a building with about 2,000 square meters with offering inside one building. And recently we make one economic report when it comes to how many savings we save the society to take one of our participants out of crime and into labor, into work. And this report shows that at least $1,000 a year each person is the saving if you're taking one of our participants outside crime and into work, even if this person is going to have help from the government when it comes to benefits, social benefits or something. There is even then a saving approximately 50,000 American dollars each year, each person's. So this is actually, it's so important when it comes to this that we don't talk about this as a way of using money. This is saving money. So I think when it comes to use money on correction and re-entry following up, it's so important. That's the best investment this government can do. And also other ripple effects, of course, when it comes to the person himself, his family, but also when it comes to the victims. So this is very important. This is a picture from prisoners in Chesterfield prison in Pennsylvania. He painted this for me and another person. They have a project which is called Little Scandinavia. They have been a Norwegian unit inside the prison. So this is made from the prisoners. And I think it says a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That painting was really beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I'm gonna save, we did get 2 questions, but I'm gonna save it for the Q&A just so we can stick to the agenda for now. But thank you so much. This was an amazing presentation. I'll now move on to our third and final speaker, Judge Leonard Edwards. I'll give a quick introduction. So Judge Edwards is a retired juvenile court judge. I met him while I was working on Project Phoenix last summer with a few classmates. My teacher, Miss Valentine, who I believe is on this call right now, she connected me to Judge Edwards, and I got on a call with him, and he gave me a lot of advice that was very helpful, that I think allowed us to bring our project to fruition and make it successful. He even came to our final presentation and gave a few words in support, which I greatly appreciated. Some work he's done, he's been a Superior Court judge in Santa Clara County for 26 years, and then for 6 years as a judge in residence at the Center for Families, Children, and the Courts. He's worked in the juvenile court for over 2 decades. His book, The Role of the Juvenile Court Judge, Practice and Ethics, is distributed to all California judges working in the juvenile family court. He's also started mediation programs, family drug treatment programs, CASA programs, and many more efforts to support the youth in his county. So I'm endlessly impressed by the work he's done. I'm very excited to introduce him for his presentation today.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for that introduction. I'm fascinated by the program in New York, and I've always been impressed with the work in Norway. My deceased wife was Norwegian, and she worked with women's programs in Norway. She also taught at the University of Bergen. I'll just add a little bit to my background. I'm a member of the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges. I was the president there. And that's important because I learned from judges around the country what best practices are. Right now, I'm a writer, a trainer, and I've written 3 books and several hundred articles. And I've visited 49 states and 13 foreign countries to talk about best practices. It's my life's work. I'm in my 80s now, but this is a calling for me, and it's what I do all the time. I'm going to talk about juvenile justice in California and in the United States. I have some good news. And the good news is that fewer youth are in custody today than 20 years ago. And it's not just a slight decrease. It's between 80 and 90% reduction in children in custody in the United States. The 90s were the high point, and I don't know how to explain this. People will give different explanations for it, but it's good news. Fewer kids in custody is better because children do not do well in custody. Another bit of good news is that our youth prison system has ended. And this was the wisdom of many people, but the governor and the assembly shut down the California Youth Authority. Now, the California Youth Authority had been in existence for 132 years. And I visited several of the Youth Authority institutions, and there would be thousands of children. In the 90s, it was over 10,000 children in prisons. There might be 1,000 children in one institution. And when I visited them, I realized it didn't take much, that this was an abusive system, that the youth who were in there, all of whom had been sentenced by a juvenile court judge because they didn't believe that the local facilities were sufficient to keep control over these violent drug dealing rapists, the highest end of criminality in our state. But we have realized, and I'm so proud of the governor to say, we think this system actually increases risks to the communities because all of these youth will get out someday. And they're getting out to, in most cases, to a life of poverty, of criminal activity, of jail, homelessness, unemployment. And so very recently, as of July 1st of last year, 2023, the Youth Authority officially closed its doors. And 2 years before that, it was not possible for a judge to place a child in the Youth Authority. Well, this is historic. Only 2 other states have tried to do this, but no state as large as California has launched such an effort to refocus the future of these youths and use the incarceration period as a chance to build a life for them. Where did these children go? These are our most dangerous kids who have committed serious crimes. Well, they went home to their local counties and local probation departments, who suddenly received back the kids that the judge had sentenced to the California Youth Authority, and they had responsibility for them. Well, they needed to be incarcerated locally. So this has resulted in the building of some buildings, but also in restructuring of probation facilities to house these kids in a secure fashion. But the most important part about it is this new location for them was seen as a rehabilitative institution. State funds have been put in place to address educational, mental health, and other services that these youth need in order to come back to the community as a useful citizen. Now we're just 1 year into this, and we're very hopeful. I'll tell you a little bit about how they're being operated. But I had to also say that the existing California Youth Authority institutions were so large that prison gangs developed among youth. And we have the prison system actually fostered the creation of gangs. And some of the gangs would fight each other, try to kill each other. And part of the placement process was to keep gangs in separate facilities. Well, now they're back home, and a big advantage is they're near their families. The CYA institution had no concern if the parents had to drive 2 or 3 hours in order to see their son or daughter. One of the takeaways from this is something that the Congress and the state legislatures finally realized. Congregate care is no good for kids or for adults, but certainly for kids. Congregate care in the dependency world, that's the abuse and neglect cases that come to juvenile court, congregate care is disfavored economically. And the federal government is watching to see about congregate care placement for kids. But it's also even worse for kids who have violated the law. What do they meet? They meet people, they meet youngsters. Maybe they'll make new friends, and often that will turn into criminality when they leave the institution. It's not a nurturing environment for kids. So we want to get kids, this is the philosophy of the state of California now, we want to get these kids, whether they're the high-end kids from the Youth Authority or just local kids who are getting in trouble, we want them to graduate and to live productive lives in our community and be productive citizens. That's an obvious goal, and we were failing at that goal for many, many years. The new facilities in each county, and for your information, for those of you who are in San Mateo County, they are called Secure Youth Treatment Facilities. And they are usually a part of the existing juvenile court, but they have a new structure, they have to have more security, and they have to have many more services than they did before. Some of the smaller counties do not have a secure youth treatment facility, but they'll share one with 2 or 3 counties. We have a number of counties in the state that they refer themselves to as cow counties, and they may only have 10 or 20 or 30,000 citizens, and so they can't do everything that the state wants a big county to do. And speaking of big counties, you may not realize this, but Los Angeles has 1/3 of the population and more than 1/3 of all the criminality that we are dealing with now. So in order to solve California's problems, it's like Cook County in Illinois, and you all have a big city. Well, Los Angeles is a big city with more than 10 million people. And when you look at your statistics, you will see that Los Angeles has more than 35% of the kids who need to be incarcerated and rehabilitated. Well, there's a new agency, and this is a very positive development. It's called the Office of Youth and Community Restoration, OYCR. Now, this office doesn't have any power to move kids around. It doesn't have the power for placement. Oh, the judges will always make the commitments, but this office will offer the counties, each county of the 58 counties in California, assistance in all of the services that are needed for these kids. Now, the states realized they saved a lot of money when they closed all these big CYA institutions, but that money, or some of it at least, is now with the counties so they can give enriched services to all of those kids that have been returned to the counties from the existing state penal system. Now, the director of the office, whose name is Catherine Lucero, said, instead, our role is to provide guidance, share best practice, and connect probation departments with resources, including grants. Well, this has just been going for a year and 1 month right now, maybe 2 months. And 11 counties have developed a working relationship with the office, and they're using resources that they have, including the access to money, for the probation departments to refocus. And part of that is really important. You know, we talk about punishment, and nobody's mentioned that word right now, but that's in the back of the minds of many of our administrators and politicians. Punish those kids for the act they've done. Well, incarceration is punishment enough and actually may set us back. And that's the attitude of the state now. You don't hear the word punishment. It's we want to make these productive citizens. We want to recalibrate their lives. And that, in my mind, that attitude change is an enormous first step in the right direction. One of the things that Director Lucero says is, youth were once seen as incarcerated people, can now be seen as college students with bright futures. Now, that's a goal you never would have heard of in the California Youth Authority. And that's an attitude that I encourage. Director Lucero is kind of a star. I hired her years ago as a hearing officer in Santa Clara County. She was so successful, she was made a judge. She served in the juvenile court for more than 15 years, and they knew they had a star. They picked her out. She's the director, and her program now not only has staff, but they have graduate school students from UCLA, plus their professor, working with her, with the kids and the probation departments, who are really launching a new direction for probation in the state of California. We see the children, the violent children. There are homicides, there are rapes, there are robberies. She sees these as future citizens because, and sometimes people forget this, you may want to rough these people up in a prison environment, but they are coming back to our community. Let's be sensible about this. And Judge Lucero certainly, I say judge because most people still call her judge, but she's a director, not a judge now. They're coming back to our community and we want them. It's in our interest and in their interest to be productive members of our society. And I love the program in New York that the professor and the students outlined. That's great. You got the same philosophy we do. Now let's see if we can make this successful. I should, one more word on Judge Lucero. She was the most creative judge that I've ever met. And one of the things that I also am, I'm an ethics expert in juvenile court ethics. I've written a book on that, and all the judges in the state get a free copy if they want one. As member of the ethics committee, I would get calls from judges who would ask me, can I do this ethically? And half the calls I received were from Judge Lucero, because she experiments. She wants to stretch the system in ways that had never been set before. Now, I wrote an article back in 1992 called "The Juvenile Court and the Role of the Juvenile Court Judge." And it changed the directions in the United States. I'll be modest enough to tell you that, because I see judges as getting off the bench, as organizing in the community, as being the voice for our most vulnerable children. And that has spread. And that group that I told you I was a member of has made that its philosophy. So when I talk to judges, and I teach ethics all the time, I tell them, would you get on a television advertisement and ask for more foster homes? Would you get on a newspaper? Would you have a newspaper article and ask for volunteers to work in the detention facilities? And judges normally are very nervous, but I try to show that judges need to take a different look at their role, because their role is literally saving kids. It's setting up systems that work for these kids, so when they return, whether they've been abused or neglected in dependency court, or whether they have violated the law in juvenile justice court, they are coming back, and we need them. We need them to be productive citizens, because if we don't have them, they will drain our resources. They'll be the addicts. They'll be in jail. They'll be homeless. But so this new philosophy, this new direction that the state has taken is a very positive development. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the Phoenix project, because the Phoenix project, and I know that Rushi could actually do a better job than I'm doing, but she has students from local school, Menlo, and incidentally, I went there a long time ago, working with the youth population in San Mateo County. And the youth population are of two kinds. They are the kids who are waiting the juvenile court process, and they're waiting, and some of them are waiting in custody. And they won't go to the whatever the secure lockup is unless they've done a serious crime. The judge will decide that. And the other kids in San Mateo County will go to the secure facility that I've described. But the Menlo students, some of them are online right now, I'm pretty sure, they are going and mentoring the kids who are in juvenile hall, who are in lockup, and they are offering support for them. And that's wonderful. I'm proud of them. That's why I'm trying to support them if I can. Even now, we know we have an advantage because the kids will probably be seeing some of their family members while they're in juvenile hall. Visiting is important. Phoenix is going to be able to identify youth that will really benefit from visits. Well, let's talk about visits for a minute. If you are in the youth authority, the serious kids, you're not going to have a lot of visits, because you're talking about several hours in the car to drive for a family that probably isn't very wealthy. And of course, we're also talking about a disproportionate number of children of colors, youth of color. And poverty is an issue. Well, it's been reduced significantly because now the kids are in a local placement. I'm hoping that more volunteers will step to the plate. I think one of the challenges that Rushi has is to turn to other students who are in their sophomore and junior year and make them leaders to organize groups of kids who will visit. Well, what does a visit mean? Well, a visit means a whole lot to those kids. And I've actually started several programs that do mentoring. I started CASA programs in the Bay Area, including the one in San Mateo County. And these are trained advocates who work with kids who are in the court system. Well, everybody in juvenile hall is in the court system. And we've expanded in Santa Clara County to have trained volunteers in some juvenile justice cases. Those are the delinquency cases I've been talking about. But most of them are with the abused and neglected kids. Well, I believe that a human being can make an enormous change in another human being's life. And it starts with a visit. It starts with working and helping this person in custody solve the problems that he or she has. And it's really just straightforward. You befriend someone, you ask what's going on, and in this case, you ask about education, because the goal principal goal for all these kids is to graduate from high school. We all know that if you graduate from high school, your life will be different than if you don't. Opportunities will open that you want to take advantage of. And yet, if you don't graduate, you won't have that chance. And I've been working with a program now, and I'm trying to expand it to San Jose. The program has trained volunteers and teachers in all the high schools in this district, the Los Altos Mountain View district. And if the teacher identifies students who they don't think will graduate for one reason or another, a mentor is assigned to that student. And last year, they had 119 mentors, and every one of the kids graduated from high school. Now, I call that success. That's a change in these kids' lives. You go to a high school graduation sometime and watch them cheer for themselves. It's a wonderful experience. And I have a senior at Menlo this year, and I think I'll be there cheering him when he graduates also. But a mentor can help in other ways. How about the bridge from in custody to out of custody? You have a place to live? Do you have family connections? Do you have food? Do you have clothing? That sort of stuff? Well, these Menlo kids are smart. They'll figure out what the kids in custody need, and they will help the bridge. Of course, probation will help too, but there's a big difference. Probation officers have 50, 40, 30 cases, 30 kids. The volunteers usually just have one, and that's a big difference. And certainly the CASA programs is the same. You may not know or may not have heard of, although I'm sure Rushi has, there's a statewide program called Friends Outside. And the Friends Outside is an organization that visits people in jail. I don't think it works in the juvenile court, in juvenile detention facilities, but it does for adults. And I've worked with people with Friends Outside. They do simple tasks to make life better for these folks. Well, a couple of final messages. I think you ought to your volunteers should try to meet with the attorney who represents the kids, because that attorney can be your voice in court if there are issues that the youngster needs to address. Also should check with the educational status of the kid. You want him to graduate well, there may be some significant educational issues, and guess what? I was in charge of the juvenile court school, and I fired the guy who was the head of it. And the reason was they were getting a lousy education. And you can imagine institutional education isn't very good. So we got to work on that. We got to get these kids interested. And that's what most of the volunteers do in the program I described. They get the kids interested in education. They get them to read a book. I mean, reading a book is a big deal. So let's do that. And perhaps you can meet with a probation officer also, who is in charge of the kid's case. You want to make sure the kid's record is sealed. And Rushi knows that. I've told her, I sent her some stuff about that. I am the country's expert on sealing of records. California has the best record sealing laws in the country, and I wrote them all. And the reason is I know what can happen when an opportunity arises and somebody says, oh, you have a juvenile record. Well, we'll go on to somebody else. It does it, and I'm so surprised that most states do not have better laws on that. So now I'm going to close. I'm going to congratulate the volunteers and those who support them. This is the finest type of contribution you can make to your community. You're building futures for many who thought they had no future at all, and many had given up. So I thank you also and hope I can help. I'll do what I can and make Phoenix a permanent part of the Menlo's efforts to improve outcomes for our incarcerated youth. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. That was so amazing. Thank you for all of that information, and thank you to all of the speakers. I wish there would be an applause, but I'm sure everybody's clapping. But this is so amazing. We have 10 minutes left. Maybe we'll do a short Q&A depending on if people are able to stay later. But before we do that, I did want to spend a bit of time to talk about following events and opportunities to get involved. So let me share my screen one more time. Okay. So we will be holding another event in September on September 28th with Columbia University. This will be in person in Menlo Park. It will, this is done in conjunction with my organization, Justice Bound, and Columbia University's Career Catalyst Internship Program. There will be multiple speakers from Columbia to discuss opportunities to provide formerly incarcerated individuals jobs in technology. So this is more of like a networking event to learn about how to make this possible. It should be very informative. I greatly encourage you to join. So if you'd like, you can take a few minutes to screenshot this. I'll also put this link in the chat. It's tinyurl.com/juvenile reform. There's also the QR code. Also, if you can't join, it'd be amazing if you could please donate to the cause about Project Phoenix that Judge Edwards was mentioning. Every $60 supports one youth in juvenile hall with providing them clean clothes, clean new clothes, hygiene products, bus passes, as well as the opportunity to get workshops on applying for jobs. And this is extremely important. We've helped 50 youth so far, and we'd like to continue supporting them. So yeah, I'll keep this up as we do the Q&A, so you can screenshot this, go to the links. Let's see. So as this stays up, I guess we can start the Q&A. Do you think you could put those two links in the chat?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay, great. So those two links should be in the chat. Okay, so we got one question in the chat that I guess I can start off by answering. Someone was asking how, like, structured ways that high schools can get involved in Justice Bound's efforts. So I'm a high schooler myself. I'm a senior in high school. We definitely have many opportunities for high schoolers to participate. So if you go to our website, justicebound.org, or you can email me at info@justicebound.org, we can get on a call and talk about it. We can help you with running workshops and book drives in your school to raise awareness and provide books in prisons. You can also, if you're interested in research, we have many opportunities for that. You can conduct research and we'll put it on our page or social media, social awareness. We have many opportunities, so please feel free to reach out if you are a high schooler or anybody else who's interested in being involved. So with that, I'll ask some questions that we received from the Google form to the entire group. And the first, let me look at the questions and see what we can start off with. So this is a question I think it would be great if everybody answers. Someone asked, what is your long-term vision for the juvenile justice system and what steps are you taking to achieve it?
I thought that was my talk.
Well, yeah.
I want to reduce incarceration. I want to make incarceration actually the steps towards rejoining the community. I want to have much less harshness even though everybody gets upset when somebody does a robbery and we have to protect the community, we nevertheless need to realize that this person is a part of our community. We need to turn it around and turn his or her life around. To show you how we're doing that, in Santa Clara County right now, there are no girls in custody. Not one. The minute a girl is picked up, and that happens, and brought to juvenile hall, she's turned around within 24 hours and placed in a rehabilitative environment. So that is a dramatic change when we used to have 60 and 70 girls in custody. Now for the boys, it used to be over 400, and now it's down to less than 100, and we're bringing it down. We're bringing in community organizations which have rehabilitative programs that we can work with. But we're just started. As far as I told you, this whole program only started 12, 14 months ago. And we're going in the right direction now. And I'll tell you what sets it back. When we have a homicide, when we have a dead child, that another child or parents killed, that really sets us back because the whole community is upset. And we lost a child to fentanyl about 8 months ago, and it's still reverberating. And sometimes it reverberates in our state capitol when they write laws and they name the law after the deceased child. So there are hurdles. This is not easy work, but I think we're on the right track now, and that's encouraging.
So Wesley, are you there?
Yes, I am.
So you say what should happen with juvenile justice in the city. And
Well, I feel like instead of them throwing us, throwing the juvenile justice, the juveniles in jail, or people in jail, period, they should figure out what's the root of the problem. Ours was that we needed more resources. That's for every really urban or underprivileged communities, just needed resources to do the right thing. People want to do the right thing, but they just don't have the direction or enough support to get there. So if you give them the support and you show them a direction, 9 times out of 10 people will take it.
And this is what I would say, you know, we're trying to do with Project Restore is invest in young people who have direct experience themselves with the justice system and make them the mentors of the future. And, you know, especially I teach in the adult correctional facilities, especially at Sing Sing, and I work with people serving life without the possibility of parole. And what has really struck me is how many of them started in the criminal justice system as juveniles. They came home and were back in again very, very quickly because they didn't have all the kinds of supports when they came home that our colleague from Norway talked about. And also what the judge was talking about, they did not, the juvenile facilities were not there to engage people in turning their life around and being ready to pursue education. So what is always, I would say, horrified me is the fact that somebody has spent 5 years in a juvenile facility and then comes home is not ready to reintegrate into society because they don't have the resources or help to do so, or what's happened in the juvenile facility hasn't put them on the right track. So keeping people out of the prison, pushing them in at any time they come in contact with the system in a different direction and connecting them up with resources that they need. I would also say, and this is from our colleague from Norway, that the summonses, the debts that any encounter with the criminal justice system accrues for individuals and for their families is what keeps people poor and what keeps people without being able to move forward. It's bad to have your freedom taken away. It's really terrible. But the fact that anytime you are caught, your money is taken away from you, you're put in debt, that shouldn't be part of a system that's focused on public safety. So that's my big long speech.
Stan, did you want to add anything to this question?
Was it me you're talking to?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Question, what your long-term vision is for these youngsters.
Yeah. For the first, I'm not an expert what's happening in the United States. That's very important for me to tell. But I have a lot of experience when it comes to what's happening here in Norway, both from the correctional side and from my experience to the Red Cross, both when it comes to using volunteers, having a holistic offering, and also when it comes to cooperation between both the government, when it comes to the correctional and probation service, and also to the municipalities. And I think, because I have a lot of friends in the United States, and it's a lot of similarities, and I think it's a lot of experience we could share with each other. So I think if there is interest, of course, we can share our experience, and at least after 20 years, we have make manuals for this work, because it's not so easy, as several speakers here talks about. It's a lot of serious crime committed by those youngsters. So we have never to forget that, and how to following up in a safe way when it comes to the volunteers and the people who are going to do it, so we can make this as safe as possible and make the community as safe as possible. So there's a lot of things to take care of. So there is no easy answer, I think, but most I think the most important thing is to have a holistic view on everything. So because there is so many things to fix, so many things to be taken care of. So I think cooperation between different non-profit organization, NGOs, the municipality, the correction, and others is maybe the most important and the most difficult thing. Maybe, I'm not sure, but at least I have. For us, I see that the cooperation now is much better and the results improving because of that. Because not because of just what Red Cross is doing, because we're doing together with each other. Yeah, and also I think the laws. It's so important that the laws also have to be challenged, and the politicians and everything, and the people's opinion as well, because I think the tough on crime policy, just in US and also in Norway, it's so easy to sell. So I think it's so important that our point of views and our experience and or meanings are shared to the media and getting people's attentions. I think that's also important, that we have to do something about the public opinion as well. Thank you.
Jason? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear the last question, but I wanted to answer the first question. I think like if it's a way possible, I think that could help juvenile detention centers possibly. As if we could like not we, but I'm just saying like as a whole, if a pipeline could be created to community college or 4-year schools from the juvenile detention center. Like obviously we don't want youth in the juvenile detention center, period. But if it's a way that juveniles who are in the juvenile detention center could get like so most of them are doing education, so getting a GED. But if it was a way to get them from the juvenile detention center straight into community college, I think that would be great.
Jason, I want to agree with you, and we are experimenting with that right now in this new
Right.
effort. And the community colleges are in our area, are very open to working with kids who are in custody. So that's a great idea, and we are trying to do it right now.
That's great.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing project. So I know we're going over time, so I want to ask, do you all have time for maybe like 2 more questions? Let me know. No, okay. If you have to leave, I understand. Maybe I'll just ask one more question. Okay, let's just do one more and then we'll wrap up. Okay. For those of us who work with or want to work with young people directly affected by the juvenile justice system, how can we get the young people we work with to start to understand their situation within the context of this large and complex international system?
Well, first you just got to get their attention. Once you get their attention, it's easy to show them different. How they got our attention was the incentive, the pay. But once you get to sit down and you listen, everybody know what makes sense usually, I'm trying to say basically, take grasp of what makes sense.
Mhm.
We all want the same things at the end of the day. We just don't know what we want. You just got to show us. So
Mhm.
Yeah, you're yeah, you're muted, Judge Edwards. Oh, he has to go. Okay. Well, yeah, does anybody else have a
Okay.
response to that?
So, Dara, did you have an answer?
No, I don't think so.
Jason has spent the last week getting Columbia students involved as well, and launching an organization for students who are impacted by the justice system. And that's also, do you want to just say a little bit about that?
Yeah, we created a system impact student group here at Columbia so that we could create a community here on campus with people that have been affected by the incarceration system or not personally affected by it, but have family members who was affected by it. So they probably dealt with a lot of things in the household because of that. So we created that to build a community, teaching them how to facilitate, do workshops with each other, and do different activities so we could build a family for people to feel like they're not alone at this institution.
And so the idea is people begin to understand what the circumstances and contexts that people who end up in the criminal justice system, what their lives are like before they end up there, but also how systems work and push some people into the criminal justice system and others into college. And one of the questions that we've been starting to ask, and Wesley and Jason answered it, is how many people did you know went to college when you were growing up, and how many people did you know went to prison? And that's a very good question to ask in classes everywhere. So you do see the different paths and trajectories that young people in different communities face.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Is there any closing thoughts from anyone?
It was a pleasure to have this opportunity to talk with you again, Ruchi, and with the people, the participants that's online with us all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too. Thank you so much for attending, and it was nice to see you all again.
And thank you. I learned so much, and it's really great that you're doing this work and that it's international.
Yeah. All right.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for having this opportunity, Richie, and good luck with your work. I mean, so impressed of what you're doing, and we keep in touch and share experience and knowledge. I think it's a lot of things here we can have a cooperation with. So yeah, good luck.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Okay, well, thank you so much for attending. Thank you for staying a bit after. I already see people commenting that this was very informative and they appreciated this. So thank you. I'll email everyone who attended with like links to all the speakers and also about our next event. Make sure to register to that, donate if you can. But thank you everyone for taking a few hours of your day to learn about this very important effort. Okay, bye everyone.
Goodbye.
That's awesome.